All right, took the rebreather out and did a dive on the southern end of the north wall face, kind of looping around and back over the very top. There was a ripping current pulling us north, probably one of the stronger currents I've ever experienced in a long time. I'm in my rebreather and we hit the first wall, and a fairly large size California octopus kind of hanging on the wall. I'm diving with Pedro and Marcos. They're in their doubles and I'm in my rebreather. Good size octopus, I would say. Visibility actually turned out to be a lot better than I had originally thought, but the terrain on the north end of the wall, or north wall valley, is a lot different than the rest of the canyon. A lot more loose grass, a lot more loose sand dollars that are halfway alive. But the canyon wall itself is thriving. There are a ton of lobster all throughout the nooks and crannies. It was definitely worth exploring. This was probably I would say it was the first time that I actually explored this side of the wall. But that said, I would definitely do it again, but it would have to be better conditions. We had a couple of seals spend the morning with us, pretty much the full extent of our dive. As soon as we got into the canyon, it kind of followed us until we got to the very northern tip of the north wall. And instead of looping around onto the other side of the north wall and headed back, we ended up going on the top end of the north wall, mainly because we had to start our decompression procedures. And that's when the current really started ripping. Diving my little 23s again, which I think is just the greatest setup on the Sidewinder. But our buddies just kept doing the little swim by over our heads. Water temperature was 52. At the very end of the northern wall tip, it looked like it got really dark, and the red tide is starting to grow out there. I'm hoping, keeping my fingers crossed, that the red tide doesn't continue on and it dissipates away, because that would be a bummer. Now that conditions are starting to get better, we can actually do some diving. It would be kind of a bummer for the red tide to come. But we'll deal with it as we go. Here's these little crab and lobster hanging out in the same hole. Tons of anemone. Very cool dive. Hope to see you down below.